I never believed in the thin line between reality and nightmare until it started bleeding into my life, seeping through the cracks of what I thought was solid ground. It began with the mirror in my old apartment, the one I'd hung crooked because I couldn't be bothered to fix it, its frame slightly askew like a smirk on the wall. That was the first story, the one that planted the seed of doubt deep in my subconscious, where it could grow unchecked. I was alone that night, or so I thought, staring at my reflection after a long, grueling shift at the diner, where the fluorescent lights buzzed like angry insects and the smell of greasy fries clung to my skin. The face looking back wasn't quite mine. Eyes a shade too hollow, as if they'd seen things I hadn't, smile a fraction too wide, stretching unnaturally at the corners like it was mocking my exhaustion. I blinked hard, rubbing my eyes with the back of my hand, and it was gone, snapped back to normalcy. Psychological trick, I told myself firmly, shaking my head to dispel the unease. Stress from the recent breakup with Sarah, who had left without a word, the endless bills piling up on the kitchen table like accusations, the weight of single life pressing down. But as I brushed my teeth in the dim bathroom light, the reflection lingered in the steam-fogged glass, watching me when I wasn't looking directly, its gaze a subtle pressure at the edge of my vision. I turned off the light abruptly, heart pounding against my ribs like a trapped bird, and lay in bed listening to the creak of the floorboards settling, each groan sounding like footsteps retreating. Sleep came fitfully, haunted by dreams of eyes in the dark, unblinking and multiplied, surrounding me in a circle of judgment. The next morning, I avoided the mirror entirely, draping a towel over it like a shroud. But at work, in the bathroom's polished chrome of the sink, it happened again. My reflection whispered something. My name, maybe drawn out like Jasike, or a warning, a hiss of look away. No one else heard it. The cook banged pots in the background, oblivious. I started doubting my sanity, questioning every glance in passing windows, every shadow that seemed to mimic my movements a second too late, lagging like an echo from another world. Friends noticed my jumpiness during our weekly poker nights, how I'd flinch at sudden laughs, and they suggested therapy, casual advice over beers. But how do you explain that your own face is lying to you, betraying you in the most intimate way? The tension built over weeks, a slow simmer turning to boil. I'd catch it in car windows as I drove home through the rain-slicked streets, shop displays in the mall where mannequins stood sentinel, even puddles on rainy sidewalks reflecting the gray sky and my distorted self. Each time, the reflection seemed more independent, mouthing words I couldn't hear over the city's hum, gesturing for me to come closer with a curl of the finger that sent chills racing down my spine. One night, alone in the dim living room with only the glow of the TV casting flickering shadows, I stood before the full-length mirror and demanded answers, my voice cracking like thin ice. What do you want? Why are you doing this? The reflection smiled, but I didn't. Its lips parted in a grin that revealed teeth too sharp, too white. It reached out, hand pressing against the glass from the other side, fingers elongating unnaturally, stretching like taffy toward me. I stumbled back in terror, my foot catching on the rug, shattering a lamp in the process. The room plunged into darkness, shards glinting like stars on the floor. When I flicked the light on with trembling hands, the mirror was ordinary again, just a silent pain. But I knew, deep in my gut, that it wasn't over. I packed a bag hastily, stuffing clothes and toiletries without care, and left that apartment, fleeing to my sister's place in the suburbs, the drive a blur of headlights and paranoia. That was the resolution, or so I hoped. A fresh start, away from the tricks of my mind, surrounded by family and normalcy. But doubt lingered, a whisper in my ear during quiet moments, making me avoid reflective surfaces, turning my head from silverware at dinner, squinting past the car's rear view. If you're feeling that same unease creeping in, that itch to look away from your own image, stay with me. Some reflections deserve to be seen, no matter how distorted they twist the truth. The second whisper came not from glass, but from the walls of my sister's house, seeping through the plaster like invisible ink revealing hidden messages. Paranormal, They call it ghosts, echoes of the past clinging to the living like burrs on fabric, refusing to be shaken off. She'd lived there for years, an old Victorian with peeling wallpaper and faded florals, and a history she never shared, always changing the subject with a tight smile when I asked about the creaks or the drafts. I moved in, still rattled from the mirror incident, sleeping on the couch with the lights on, the remote clutched like a talisman against the dark. It started small, almost dismissible. Footsteps in the attic at midnight, soft and deliberate, like someone pacing in heavy boots, measuring the floorboards with purpose. I told myself it was the house settling, the old wood expanding and contracting with the temperature, wind whistling through unseen cracks like a distant sigh. But one evening, as rain hammered the roof in relentless sheets, turning the world outside to a watery blur, I heard my name called from upstairs, my sister's voice, clear and urgent, laced with fear. "Jack, help me." She was at work, miles away at her nursing shift, her car keys still hanging by the door. I froze in the kitchen, knife in hand from chopping vegetables for a solitary dinner, every sense heightened. The metallic tang of the blade, the sizzle of onions in the pan suddenly too loud. The air grew cold abruptly, my breath visible in the sudden chill, fogging the air like a winter morning. Escalation came that night, building like a storm. Whispers seeped through the vents, fragments of conversations from decades ago, laughter turning to screams mid-sentence, pleas for help cut short by a thud that echoed in my chest. I barricaded myself in the guest room, piling chairs against the door, but the walls seemed to breathe, the wallpaper bubbling as if something pushed from within, fingers tracing outlines on the other side. By dawn, exhaustion won out, dragging me into sleep, but it brought visions of a woman in white, her face half melted like wax under flame, reaching for me with skeletal hands, her eyes pleading and accusatory. Days blurred into paranoia. Objects moved subtly. A favorite book falling open to pages about loss and betrayal, its spine creased as if read recently. A locket appearing on my pillow with a faded photo of strangers, a woman and a younger girl, their faces etched in sepia sorrow. My sister dismissed it as my imagination running wild from the apartment stress, but her eyes darted to the corners too, lingering on the shadows a beat longer than before. The climax hit during a brutal storm. Thunder rattling windows like fists on glass, lightning etching the room in stark white. I followed the footsteps to the attic door, drawn by an invisible thread. It creaked open on its own with a groan like a dying breath, revealing dust motes dancing in the beam of my flashlight, swirling like spirits in the stale air. There, in the corner shrouded by cobwebs, the woman stood, translucent and wavering, her mouth moving silently in a loop of desperation. She pointed at me with a trembling finger, then at a loose floorboard near her feet, the wood warped and dark. Trembling, sweat beading on my forehead despite the chill, I pried it up with the flashlight's edge, nails splintering, finding yellowed letters bundled with twine, detailing a murder-suicide from 1923, the sister killing her sibling in a fit of jealousy over a lost love, her rage immortalized in ink, haunting the house ever since as a cycle of envy and regret. I slammed it shut, the wood cracking under my force, fleeing downstairs in a panic, but the whispers followed, now in my sister's voice. "Join us, Jack. It's easier here." Resolution was hasty and desperate. We called a priest from the local church, his incense heavy in the air, burned sage until the rooms reeked, chanted prayers that felt hollow. But the air never warmed fully, a perpetual draft reminding us of the breach. I left. Again soon after, crashing with a friend in the city, but the echoes stayed, faint murmurs in quiet moments, like radio static tuning into the past. That house wasn't empty. It was full of unfinished stories, pulling the living into their fold, weaving us into the narrative whether we willed it or not. The third tale unfolded through a lens I never asked for. Found footage, captured on an old camcorder my friend dug out from his garage, its plastic casing yellowed with age and dust. We bonded over my troubles during late-night talks. Him, a tech guy obsessed with vintage gear, always tinkering with relics from the 90s like they held secrets. "Film your days," he said with enthusiasm, handing me the device. "Prove it's all in your head. Document the normal and watch the fear fade." So I did, narrating my routines into the grainy viewfinder with forced cheer. Breakfast of burnt toast and coffee, walks in the park where leaves crunched underfoot, avoiding puddles that might reflect more than sky. At first, it was mundane, a log of normalcy that grounded me, the whir of the tape reassuring in its mechanical rhythm. But reviewing the tapes alone in the dim light of my laptop, discrepancies emerged like cracks in a facade. In one clip from the park bench, behind me as I rambled about the weather, a figure sat, a man in a wide-brimmed hat, face blurred by the low resolution, watching intently, his posture rigid. I hadn't seen him there, the bench empty when I sat down, birds chirping innocently around. Escalation built as shadows lengthened in the footage, unnaturally so. Doors closing on their own with a soft click, whispers syncing with the audio hiss, words like "closer" and "see" threading through the static. One night, steeling myself, I filmed my reflection in a small handheld mirror to confront it head-on, the camera shaking slightly in my grip. The tape showed my double stepping out of the mirror's frame, materializing like smoke, circling me slowly while I stood oblivious, staring at the empty glass with furrowed brow. Heart racing, pulse thundering in my ears, I watched frame by frame in slow motion. The double's hand resting on my shoulder, fingers curling possessively, invisible to me then, but now etched in pixels. Paranoia gripped harder, a vice around my thoughts. I filmed everything obsessively, sleeping with the camera rolling on the nightstand, its red light a watchful eye. The tapes multiplied like rabbits, each revealing more intrusions. The attic woman appearing in window reflections during a daytime shoot, her ethereal form superimposed, fingers tapping the lens from inside the house, as if trying to break through. My friend analyzed them in his cluttered workshop, his face paling under the desk lamp. "This isn't editing glitches or lens flares. Something's interacting, responding to you." He pointed out anomalies, timestamps skipping, audio layers overlapping with voices not mine. The climax came unexpectedly when I played back a session from that very morning. I'd been alone in the kitchen, or thought so, pouring cereal with the sun streaming in, but the footage captured voices arguing heatedly in the background, two men debating my fate in gravelly tones. One saying, "He's ready now, take him." The other hesitating, "Not yet, let him see more." The camera shook violently as if grabbed by unseen hands, then dissolved into static snow, reforming with me on screen, waking up groggily with no memory of the intrusion, blinking at the lens. I smashed the camcorder in a rage, bringing it down on the table, shards flying like brittle confetti, cutting my palm in the process. But the final tape, salvaged from the wreckage by my friend, ended with my own voice whispering hoarsely, "It's all recorded now, forever." Resolution? I buried the pieces deep in the woods behind his house, deleting files from every device, scrubbing my hard drive until it hummed with emptiness. But doubt festered like an untreated wound. Every photo on my phone now held hidden figures in the periphery. Every video call glitched with overlays of eyes staring back, unblinking. The footage wasn't just evidence. It was the trap, capturing me for whatever watched from the other side, archiving my unraveling for an audience beyond the veil. If this is starting to feel too close, too real, like eyes on your screen peering through the pixels, share it. Let someone else glimpse what hides in the frames, and perhaps dilute the gaze. The fourth and final thread wove through the cosmos itself, a dread vast and indifferent, connecting the mirrors, walls, and lenses into something incomprehensible, a tapestry of terror spanning realities. It began subtly after the footage incident, when stars seemed to shift in the night sky during my sleepless vigils, constellations twisting like living organisms, Orion's belt buckling as if in pain. I pored over books in the library's dusty astronomy section, seeking patterns in star charts and ancient texts, but the escalation was insidious, Dreams of endless voids where voices echoed, not from ghosts or reflections, but from the fabric of reality fraying at the edges, threads pulling loose. Urban legends spoke of it in hushed online forums. The Whispering Void, a tear in the universe where forgotten things hunger eternally, feeding on the curiosity of the aware. One night, seeking solace, I drove to a remote hill for stargazing. Telescope in hand, the city lights a distant glow. Through the eyepiece, it revealed not stars twinkling innocently, but eyes, millions, blinking in synchronized malice from the black expanse, irises of nebulae contracting. Panic surged like bile. I dropped the scope, running back to my car, but the sky followed, shadows elongating across the ground, pooling like ink. Back in my temporary room at a motel, mirrors showed not my face etched with fear, but galaxies swirling hungrily, pulling me in with gravitational whispers. Walls, even in this neutral space, whispered cosmic secrets in layered tongues. You are the bridge between worlds, the vessel. Footage from my phone, casual selfies to prove sanity, captured impossible angles, as if filmed from above the atmosphere, showing Earth as a fragile orb with tendrils encroaching. The climax erupted in a thunderous Vision 1 eclipse night. The apartment's mirrors shattering into voids, the house's walls crumbling to reveal starfields, the park bench sinking into abyssal black, all collapsing into a singularity that hummed with power. The woman from the attic, the double from the glass, the figures from the tapes, they merged into a colossal entity, formless yet aware, tendrils reaching through dimensions like roots seeking soil. I screamed as it touched my mind, a psychic flood of eternity's cold indifference. Human lives as fleeting specks in the cosmic dust, horrors as natural law woven into the stars, entire civilizations blinked out like faulty bulbs. Memories not mine assaulted me, alien wars in gaseous clouds, voids birthing monsters from silence. I blacked out amid the onslaught, collapsing to the floor, waking to normalcy under fluorescent motel lights, but irrevocably changed, synapses rewired. Resolution is an illusion, a comforting lie. I wander now, a nomad through cities and countrysides, seeing the connections everywhere, the void peeking through cracks in sanity, in the pause between heartbeats, the flicker of a screen. It waits, patient as the universe's expansion, for us to notice and step closer. If you've journeyed this far with me, through the glass and shadows, the whispers and stares, you're marked now, etched into the pattern. Carry this whisper into your nights. Let it echo in your dreams. The void listens, and it remembers every soul it claims. Word count, 3,000.